You're now tuning in to 13signsastrology.com. Now, what I want to kind of briefly cover is some of the sciences that they used in Kemet, and I can't go deeply into it because, of course, you would need textbooks. Well, I would need textbooks if I want to like really cover something like this to be able to like give you the real terms for like the medical terms that they use in the medical industry versus some of the more alchemical and like metaphysical terms that they may use in the schools of metaphysics to kind of do a brief comparison on our medical uh, library and our medical history that we have in this civilization in comparison to the medical information that they had in Kemet and in other places. Really, actually, believe it or not, a lot of it comes from the school of Karma Sutra, which I call them the ancient Dravidians, not to be offensive. I mean, Indians, so-called Hindus, if you want to use that term, have documented and kept this information sacred. It really came from Kemet, but Melanin people of Kemet, from my research, abused it and lost a lot of the knowledge of it. And even if you go to Africa today, you're not going to find too much information about this unless you go to India, and you're going to think that it came from that region, when in actuality, a lot of the medical sciences came from Kemet. Came from Kemet. If you study the Tower Red, this is where it all came from. There's a school, it was a whole school called the Tower Red, and they based it off of studying the hippopotamus. And when they broke down the hippopotamus, they pretty much turned that into a school, which eventually led into understanding a female's body. First, before you can even go into the male aspect of sexuality, everyone would have to study the female's body first, males and females. But really, actually, from my research, a lot of this was oppressed by the male priesthood in Kemet, which is the reason why they lost a lot of it, because they were, of course, scared when they started studying it, because they didn't realize how much power the woman has. And when they started studying, they're like, damn, she really doesn't need us. I mean, it kind of came out. So even to this day, you'll still get melanated people, males is what I'm more so speaking of, and white males too. White males too, definitely, from my research, that are fearful of this information. They don't want to hear it. You know what I'm saying? Because they feel like, not that it's not true, it's too true. And it's to the point where it's like, you hear something and it just hurts your ears. Like it's like the truth, and it just hurts you so bad because you're guilty or whatever. You feel like, I mean, it may not, the person that's saying it may not even know anything about you, nothing. But you just feel guilty, and this is what the priesthood plays off of. But in Kemet, we know that guilt, all of that stuff is like sicknesses that you have to like heal from the sin. Like you can't be guilty, like of anything. You can't be living in sin. Sin is sensation. So when you start talking about the medical industry, what I want to point out, I could go into a lot of videos, and I will, when people ask me a request. This came up on the dark web, so I will go into more information. But I'm going to target more so melanin when you talk about the chemical makeup, because it's coming up a lot again about melanin and of course black people, so-called black people. I really, guys know I don't like using that term, but we're talking about so-called skin tone. I'm making this video dark for a reason, because people say, well, you're black, look, the video's dark. But nah, I mean, that's just a shade of a shadow, believe it or not. Like there's no such thing as black. Like I'm brown or red. Like if you actually look at my hand, believe it or not, it's red. You probably can't see it. My palms are red. Some black people have more of so-called black people have darker palms. Mine's are red. They have like more brown tones. My tones are red. And this is going into your aura and stuff like that, and why you get your tones. Like as a so-called melanated person, you don't look like the next person. Like if you say, well, you're black, you just put a bunch of black people in a room together, you're going to see a bunch of different shades, and a lot of people can't see it in the Caucasian race, so-called Caucasian. I say so-called because Caucasian is Caucasus Mountains, that's a region. So every so-called white person is not Caucasian. It's not true. Caucasian is one of the oldest beings on this planet. comes from like the Russian school of thought, and I've talked about this before. But in speaking on melanin, um, you have to break down the parts of the body, and what I found out is that this gets really deep. In Kemet, they had a science to where they could essentially break down your body the way you would break down a car and put it back together. And I know you're like, what the fuck? Yeah, right. Like seriously, like just about any part of your body, they studied this stuff so deeply from my research. And a lot of it was lost, but they still got it. In the underworld aspect of this planet, see, there's a planet that's an underworld aspect of this planet that they have knowledge that you know nothing of, like in the underworld. And there's a library there. It's just like this world that we live in. They have everything that we have and probably more. But in that aspect of it, they overstand it, of course, what I'm speaking of. But on this plane or on the surface, we don't understand it. And they had a way to break down the body and to keep it alive. Now, of course, your state of consciousness at this time would have had to been transported or put into some form of a container so that you can, like stay conscious or whatever. So like when it was put into the next body, you would still have your consciousness. So you wouldn't die essentially. Like what keeps you alive is your consciousness, your awareness. That's what keeps you alive. It's not just your breath. I mean, of course it's your breath, but I'm saying on a deeper level, you could breathe through your pores and stuff like that. Once you heal yourself, like we're not healed, we're sick. Everybody's sick. Once you heal yourself to a certain degree, you could put yourself up under different types of, let's just say, different types of experiments and different types of surgeries, even going into that and survive this. But I'm pointing this out, and I'm gonna stop here. And this is what I want to say. So when you start talking about melanin, what I researched, and I actually learned this from a European that was a part of my soul group, and I looked it up, and it's true. It's truer than I don't even know if she realized how true it is because I found more information on it, and that's what happens with me. People tell me stuff, and they think like, well, I told you that or this or that, and they may hear me talk about it, but usually what happens with me is that I'll find a bunch of stuff to kind of like go with it on the web or whatever. Or just I'm really good at research. Like I've always been like that, so I find some stuff to put with it, and that's what kind of happened. Like so, she taught me that, and I started looking it up, and that's when I found out about what I was just telling you about earlier. And I'm pointing this out because she was breaking down how the vagina of the Caucasian woman, which I researched, of the Caucasian woman is very melanin potent, extremely melanin potent. Um, Now you may say, well, why are you saying the Caucasian? Well, what about the black woman? And what about this? And what about this? Is when it's going to get deep because when you start talking about the melanin of your skin, that's one way of getting melanin. But then you got melanin in your brain. You actually have more melanin in your brain. This is white or black, believe it or not, than you would ever have in your skin. But what they found out is that they didn't want to point this out. The white doctors see they're racist. A lot of them, like, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, they just get scared. Racism is fear. That's all it is. So they saw that and got scared. Like, oh shit. I mean, I'm the type of person I'm going to capitalize off of anything. Like, why get scared when the game is to be sold? As they say, it not told. That's real, man. And it's like, well, you just a street hustler. Like, no, this is real. Why would you give something like that away for free? And in return create so much karma from that. See, they don't tell you that. Oh, you create karma from giving too sometimes. I mean, there is a balance in everything in this universe. Just like you can create karma from receiving too much. You can create karma from giving too much. It's the same thing. It's a balance, a mod. And that's why we lost a lot of that when we stopped studying Kemet. I'm just keeping it real. Because we became religious. And I'm saying we, more so speaking of people that of African descent, even on the continent of Africa, I'm saying religious. Religious as hell. One person's Muslim, the other group of tribes is this and that. And it's like you're not none of that. You know what I'm saying? I studied the Senegalese doctrine, and a lot of them are Christians, and I studied their African doctrine. It's so deep, and they don't even embrace it or talk about it. They call it Zeniga in Senegal, and I'm pointing that out for a reason. They have a whole doctrine going into like medicine, sexual healing that's deep, like deeper than even Kemet. Some of the stuff you learn in Kemet. And I can't go into that here now because it takes a lot of research and a lot of it slipping my mind, but I've studied it deeply actually. And a lot of what you learn at Kemet, what I studied from it, those names were just translated from Senegal, believe it or not, and moved into East Africa. A lot of that stuff started in West Africa. They don't talk about that even in Kemet though. That was the like height of it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to point that out and like go stray off because I'm not straying off because this is talking about melanin. So when you start talking about that, be like, well, so what about white people? I mean, so that means all the melanin dominance and the knowledge came through our people. Yeah, but remember, what is our people? And that's where I'm gonna kind of stop at because I just explained to you how they can break down. They were able to break down the body to like almost next to nothing and bring you back as another race, bring you back as another sex, even. You're not ready for that type of stuff. Bring you back possibly as an animal in this life. So you hear about the reincarnation. See, they fooled you in Kemet. I mean, in India, they teach reincarnation of death. That's a separate school, which is true. After you die the body is disconnected for like 24 hours and the consciousness is lost, you're dead. Period. That's you can die. Yes, you can't die because you're saying like because a lot of people may feel like, well, what you're saying is that if they could do that, then we should not be able to die. True, we should not have to die, but this is the cure or going into the cure of death, which is stages of that. Because I mean, doing this to someone that's 20 or 30 years old would look different than doing this with someone or breaking down someone's body that's 70, 80. You know what I'm saying? There's different levels of the body. You have to study that and get into deep sciences, of course. You know that. But what I'm breaking down is that, or here is that was a school of melanin and breaking down the body, and a lot of it, the potency of it, and I'm gonna stop here, comes from the Caucasian females, so-called Caucasian. I'm using that loosely because there's certain variations of this from my study, believe it or not, the Italian. And I'm not saying this for a reason because you like most women are of Italian descent, males are attracted to them for whatever reasons of beauty. Not being racist, but it's a reason for that because of the fact that the breakdown of how the alchemical formula of how they were created, believe it or not, gives them those features of which just about any group, if you get into like deep levels and you get some money and go traveling, you could probably update your features as well. And if you want to look Italian, that's what I'm getting at. The Egyptians had the science of like cute and ugly and all of that were just schools. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even what I'm pointing out is that melanin, the potency of it would come from women of that region, somewhere in Italy. The most potent melanin um, production as far as coming from her vagina. So like they started to like get into like deep levels of making money to where they were like loaning out their vagina for a period of time to women, older women or whatever that may want to experience sexual heights or whatever, like their vagina may have been more moist and things of that nature based on melanin. The woman period's vagina, her whether it's moist or not, and how moist it gets, it's not just because you got her turned on and all. I mean, of course, you can increase that and all of that, but some women just have heightened levels of moisture, just like certain males are naturally more firmer at different times, like just all the time, even if they're not even turned on, they're just naturally firm. There's women like that, they're just naturally moist, even if they're not even turned on, and that's based on melanin. So with that, you have to go into like if that's one of the most potent sources is in the Caucasian, so-called Caucasian, or just a woman. Let's just say in the woman's vagina for now, because it could be just about any race, really, when you break down what I just talked about. But it started with, and that's why I want to point. The origin of it was from women in that region, in the region of Italy. So what we would have to do, and I haven't done this yet, is go more into the doctrine of the original inhabitants of Italy. And of course, you know, we're going to have our scholars out there that are going to try to say that black people have been all over the planet, which we have. And they're going to say black people were, you know, the first people in Italy and all of that are Moors. And that's true. But we're talking about science, though. Science, though. So it's like, at what point, these are questions you have to ask yourself, and I'm going to shut down. At what point did this stuff start and end? If I'm telling you they had a science to be able to break down the body and the race, and you can find information on this right now online, and it's documented. At what point did these races really begin and end? You had teachers out here saying that sometime the white man is 6,000 years old, or men in general. Some people say men in general are 6,000 years old. You have teachers that teach that men, the species of male, is not that old. Males are only 6,000 years old. You got all kind of stuff Black males are the ones responsible for giving all the melanin out to the planet. Not true. Because these are going into what was the source. You see, and they say, well, women are the source of the older than men, which is true. A female's vagina, it was the source. And from my research, this vagina, the reason why it was so potent for a Caucasian woman in her vagina, or you know what I'm saying, that area is because she didn't have the pigmentation aspect. She didn't have melanin on her skin, like it wasn't visible, is what I'm saying. You couldn't see it. It's inside of the vagina or whatever, and of course it could manifest as pigmentation. That's just like doing an experiment. If you want to be more darker, lighter, tanning, this stuff still goes on to this day. People, why do you think people go to tan? Because they want to be protected from the sun and stuff like this. Is what why do you think people take melatonin pills? Why are they selling this stuff? So if this was just some made up stuff, why is it so lucrative? Even to, I mean, of course, now as we lose money, because that's what's happening, it's becoming less and less lucrative because the knowledge of it is being lost. But back in like even just a few years ago, melatonin pills were a lot more popular than what they are now. And the concept of melanin was a lot more popular than what it is now because now it's become racist and a lot of people like feeling like white people too. When you talk about melanin, automatically get scared. They won't even watch the video probably even because they automatically think you're about to come on that black Pan African stuff in at first. And I'm not saying it to be funny. I'm just using it to like as terms to spark the mind. Because at first, when I studied it, it did take me into that type of knowledge, and it's supposed to. But then when you get into the science of it, and this is where like the separation comes in. Some people are just naturally like zealots. You know what I'm saying? They're like religious, and like when they hear something that's more of a religion, then some people are scientists or artists, which is the same thing. So like it's an art. Like you can't just go around and put out information about this at any time. You know what I'm saying? Or to just any group. It's an art. It's a time, it's a period of time where you would do something like this. So I'm saying that to say that the melanin like aspect of the woman, and a lot of people aren't gonna like this. I know this. Watching the video, it's gonna be all kind of comments, negative. It's okay. That's what I make information like this for. It's okay. When you see the negative comments and people talking crazy or low views, whatever, you know why. Because I'm gonna say the stuff that they don't want to say. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm gonna say the stuff they don't want to hear. They want you to just say what's the status, what was already taught. Even on the Black Pan-African level, they want you to talk about melanin from that perspective. We're the best because that's supposed to increase your love for yourself and your self-worth and stuff like that. But we should be past that now, and I'm ready to move into science. When you get into science, it will take you into a whole nother realm because everything that you thought you knew, you're going to find out you didn't know shit. Nothing. So like we have to. I mean, I'm like on a level to where like if you get a private reading with me one day, and you can get. I'm gonna make a video and advertise readings. I can kind of give you my theories on when a lot of this stuff started, when we like were brought into this state of where we're at now of consciousness, because this is just a state. That's what a state means. There's no states. I'm gonna have to talk about all of that, but it's another subject. But this is just a state of consciousness and how we got to this point of like the state of consciousness based on an experiment. Everything's an experiment. Whoever drew the circle is the only one that knows where it begins and ends. And there is a group of people that drew that circle that still exists to this day. And I keep trying to tell people, you living to be 100 and something years old is nothing. These people are hundreds of years old. I've talked to some of them and have met some of them in real life, in flesh. And they only come out during certain times and only exist during certain times, but they know we're the creators of this mess that we in. But of course, the creator at this point wouldn't want to show his face or her face because they look at you on a level like animals. You may decide you want to kill them. You want to get guns and go to war now that you know who did this to you, type of thing. Because some people hate this reality. They want to die and stuff. I mean, I've been there too, and I go there every morning. I'm not gonna lie, because it's a paradigm. It's dark and then it's light. Sometimes you wake up, you're like, I don't want to be here. This is just ridiculous. I hate this world. Especially when you become very conscious. I'm saying you have to be extremely conscious to understand this. And you like just looking at all this stuff. You're like, man, I don't want to deal in this world. That's just because you're so conscious. You're supposed to be in another realm. You can't exist in this realm. Like you have to create your own realm now. You're too conscious. So you have to create your own world. And then a lot of people don't want to do that work because it takes effort, a lot of effort. to like create your own world. So this is all still staying on subject or whatever. So to understand these concepts, you would first have to understand the realm, is where I'm getting at. We were put into this situation from our realm. And there was at one point, these women that created this, yeah, most of it you're going to find out is women. You're going to understand why, whether they were black, Chinese, or white, because it's a mixture of all. Created this, you know what I'm saying? And then predominantly initiated some males to kind of like be the leaders and the teaching, which of course would have to be males that were in tune with their feminine nature and not abusive to women. I mean, you were put through tests because you're gonna be learning stuff that would make you want to kill someone. This is what I'm pointing out. Like, I want to really put this in this video and make it clear. You may learn some shit about something that happened to you in the past. You're like, I'm about to fucking kill somebody, so they got to put you in the environment. So you can't get to the, you know what I'm saying? Because then you may keep studying, you may realize, oh, that's why they did that. Oh, okay, I see. And I'm for real, like my studies, I've studied stuff, and you'll be ready to pick up a gun and go and shoot someone. Like, what the fuck? And then you start, oh, that's why they did X, Y, and Z, or that's why they. And then you get more knowledge, you become more humble. And that's where I'm kind of like, in my studies at a humility level for now. I mean, I'll go through fiery modes and stuff, but I'm at a humility level for now because I'm studying some stuff now to where I was like, oh, wow. You thought you knew some shit type stuff I won't discuss like yet. Eventually I will. But that's where important. So like studying this, that all of that, you have to remember all of that. So like, yeah, it's true. For my research, you can go look it up, get mad to comments. People that support this, put some comments up here to support what I'm saying. Yes, the European woman, specific, that's a better term to put, not Caucasian. Vagina was most potent. It was one of the most potent sources to get melanin. It's in plants. It's in a lot of other stuff. And it's a secret about this with the European woman, from what I learned from this woman, and marijuana too, that I go into. And also adding to when this European woman engages in sex with a so-called black male, or what was properly called a Moorish American, what I call it, increases this process too. But what I'm saying is that her vagina is the container to be able to produce melanin. Is what I'm pointing out. And a lot of the darker pigmentation that you see came from that source. Now there's other sources. I didn't say everybody, because we can go into plant-based sources too. And there are beings that base their melanin on it. But I'm saying you didn't. So when women that get mad or whatever, it's like, no, in this experiment, in this realm, and I'll stop here, is a good place to stop. In this realm and in this experiment, you are a part of that, what I just explained earlier, for scientific reasons of what I've researched. Now, for plant-based beings and people that want to move into that, there's alchemical work you can do on a certain level to truly move. So not just, okay, I'm going to be a vegan, now I'm in it. You could kill yourself being a vegan. Doesn't mean anything. So how you do it. I learned all of that stuff. See, I used to think all of that stuff too. Like I used to be, I'm a vegan. And you still have it, but it's like that stuff is all about a realm in a period of time and an experiment. Thank you for listening and watching. I'm coming out with more information. This is that season for me. So, as always, you guys stay vigilant. Namaste.